What's up, guys? It's Dan from Coin Bureau Trading. Today, we're going to look at the question of whether there's enough time for altcoins to rally. This is probably the number one question I've gotten, especially whenever I mention that we're likely to see a cycle top in Q3, which of course is by the end of September. Everyone wonders, is there enough time for altcoins to rally? The answer is yes, and history proves that there is. If this is the kind of content that you enjoy, then be sure to smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ping that notification bell. Before we get started, do keep in mind that nothing in this video is financial advice. It's just my personal analysis of the crypto market. Your analysis could be different, and if it is, that's awesome, because the more difference of opinion that we have, the better traders and the better investors we're all going to become. So with that being said, guys, I'll actually start by reading out a question I got here in the Coin Bureau Club from Matt, who's one of our, let's say, OG members, always posting some super interesting insights. And a couple weeks ago, he basically asked the question that I asked in the intro, which is basically like, is there enough time for altcoins to rally? But I will actually read out his reasoning, because I think it's a very good reasoning, and it's something that I'm sure a lot of you are wondering as well. So, Dan, I have a question for you. Looking at many altcoin charts, for example, Ethereum's last cycle, it took around 400 days from the bottom to the first peak in its uptrend. Specifically, from the trend reversal to the first top, it was around 413 days. If we assume that the low for ETH is already in, which I think it is, and we're currently in a new uptrend, we're only at around day 94 right now. Do you think that's expecting a cycle top for altcoins do you think that expecting a cycle top for altcoins within the next 90 days might be unrealistic? And he also pointed out the others chart. Others chart had a same cycle last time. It took 413 days, basically from bottom to top. And in short, my reply to Matt was basically that the way that he was kind of measuring the move was from the bottom basically from the bottom to the top. But if we actually look from the breakout level to the top, you can see that it's actually much shorter and actually falls much closer to that 90-day time frame. But I guess first things first, of course, again, Matt, he asked me this in the Coin Bureau Club. That's kind of like our exclusive subscription service. That's where we do deep dives into small cap and mid cap altcoins every single week. The way that we pick those altcoins is that our members get to vote on which ones we review. We also have a research feed where I'm sharing like insights, and while all of us are sharing insights about the crypto market, we have a team portfolio page where you can see which altcoins we hold and which ones we're considering buying. We have an exclusive deals page where you can find discounts on like crypto analytics platforms and stuff like that. And of course, we have a members Discord where you can ask us questions like Matt did. And again, great question from Matt. I told him a couple of weeks ago that I would make a video about this, so it's about time I got to it. Anyway, starting with Ethereum, and I guess apologies to Matt and to whoever else. I kind of drew, because he didn't actually show the exact timeline, but I actually did kind of get a sense of roughly what timeline he was dealing with here. So around 400 days, let's say, I don't know, from 2020, from mid 2020, let's say, until late 2021. That was basically, let's say, around 400 days. This 400-day time frame that Matt was talking about. And again, as I noted in Matt's reply, and as I'm going to show you guys here, yes, that's true that from the bottom to the top, it was 400 days. But the thing is that in my view, we're dealing with a scenario that is more similar to kind of like a breakout into the final rally. Here we're going all the way back to 2017, and you can see on Ethereum, basically from November 2017 to early January 2018. So we're literally over the span of about 2.5 months. That's when Ethereum actually had its parabolic rally, you could say, and it rallied by about 5x over the course of around 3 months into the cycle top after chopping around for a while. And if we go kind of to the current day here, just zooming in forward, we're on the weekly, by the way, in case you're wondering. So we have a similar dynamic here. You could make the argument that let's say the breakout level for ETH is going to be somewhere, let's say, around 4K. And I do think that this is a level that's likely to be hit by the end of this month. And then, of course, we would have potentially a roughly 2-month window, let's say, for ETH to get that parabolic move before you start typing in the comments, oh, like you think ETH is going to top at 6,000. No, I actually think that ETH will probably top it somewhere around like 7,500. Maybe it only tops at 6. I know a lot of people are watching at 10K. I do think it's possible that ETH rallies up to 10K, but I would say something below that, somewhere around 7,000 to 8,000 would be more likely. So don't take this box as like, me saying that it's only going to rally up to 6,000. I'm just pointing out the fact that, this kind of, let's say 2-month window, 2.5-month window, let's say between like now and let's say mid-October roughly, for ETH to see a cycle top somewhere within that range. Again, it doesn't make much sense when you're measuring from the bottom, but when you're measuring from previous breakout levels, and you could even make the case here, you could take this box here and you could say, okay, but like from the actual breakout to the final rally here, let's say going from, I don't know, around August, September into November. Again, that's like roughly you're dealing with what, like a 2 or 3 month window here from that final blow off top rally. And you can even narrow it even more and say it actually started in November, so it was really just like 1 month of up only. So that's one thing. Again, this is just for Ethereum. Moving on to others, I think is even more interesting because it's a little bit more clear, I would say. So you guys can see here again, same idea. Matt was highlighting the fact that it looked like it took roughly, I don't know, whatever it is, 413, I think he was saying, days for others from the bottom to the top. That's how long it took for the rally to happen. But again, same idea. If we actually zoom in and look at when others actually broke out, you can see that's literally between, let's say, again, like between August and November, so roughly 3 to 4 months. That's all that final kind of like blow off top move. That's when like the big kind of rally came in right at the very end, right? And you could make the argument, oh, maybe it was from July, and then maybe it was like a 5 month move or 6 month move. That's always possible. Again, I'm not completely writing off the idea of a Q4 cycle top. I just don't think it's likely. I'll explain why using Bitcoin in just a second. But again, if we go back in time, same idea, like we did with Ethereum. If we look at others during the previous cycle in 2017, when it got that breakout above that resistance level, then you saw literally within 2 months that you basically saw a parabolic move. In others went up around 8x over the span of around 2 months. So again, like everyone, I think, is very fixated on the previous cycle, and they're thinking and really looking at what happened in the previous cycle. My kind of hot take there is that the main difference between the previous cycle and the current cycle is basically that there was more time for people to pay attention as a result of the pandemic. I don't think the stimulus had anything to do with it. If you look at various research on where that stimmy money went, it did not go into crypto. It went to paying down debts. It went into retail, mainly like shoes and makeup and stuff like that. That money did not go directly into crypto, contrary to what people claim. But the one thing that was different, again, was the attention. It was the fact that people were stuck at home. They had nothing to do, so they were paying attention to crypto. And I think that was the main kind of differentiating factor, and why we had such a big kind of, like, you could say, almost like a prolonged rally. A lot of people argue that the cycle top for crypto was actually in early 2021, and that this second leg higher was like artificial, driven by leverage. Again, that's certainly up for debate. But I think the one thing that is clear is that the reason why there's so much, whether it's in others or in Ethereum or whatever, you can see that there was almost like a whole 2 year period where people were consistently paying attention to crypto. That's kind of abnormal, historically speaking. That attention is much more fleeting. That brings me, of course, now to the current level, where again, I think that the breakout level for others is somewhere here around 360 billion. I do think that's a level, again, that will likely be hit by the end of this month. So when we get a breakup of that level, then we will see, again, roughly, I don't know, 2 months, let's say into mid-October, like max, we'll see a 2 month basically melt up, a final melt up for altcoins. And again, how high will others go? Will it be 600 billion? Will it be 700 billion? I honestly don't know. It'll probably be somewhere, I don't know, between 6 and 700 billion, let's say, just off, back of the hand math. But yeah, like once it gets above this, I guess the key takeaway, again, in case it wasn't clear enough, is once you get a breakout above this resistance level, which again, I do think is going to happen for ETH. For ETH, it's around 4K. For others, it's around 360 billion. I think both of those levels will likely be hit in the next couple of weeks. Once they're above those levels, then that's really when the final timer starts, you could say. This is why I was also mentioning in the Discord that, for anyone who hasn't rotated into altcoins, they probably have another couple weeks left to do that at the most, if assuming my thesis is correct, of course, not financial advice or anything like that. But if my thesis is correct, then you literally have a couple months left to rotate before we get a breakout above that resistance, and you get that final 2 month, roughly 2 month melt up, which again, historically speaking, for that to happen within the span of 2 to 3 months is completely normal. Could it be a little bit shorter? Could it be a little bit longer? Always. Final thing I'll point out, guys, in case you're still doubting this kind of analysis, if we just look at the last two, this is something I mentioned in a video earlier this week. If we just look at the last two melt ups in the total crypto market cap, you'll notice that they both lasted for around 2 months roughly, right? So from late January 2024 to around mid-March of 2024. So literally just over the course of 2 months roughly, that's when we saw a big melt up. And then same thing again here from October, let's say, until from early October until early December roughly. That was kind of like another melt up. And I think that we're at the beginning of seeing the same thing here. Let's say sometime in late July, again lasting for around 2 months. That takes us to sometime in late September as a potential top. What will the total crypto market cap top be? I don't know. I do think it's going to be very high, potentially somewhere around 5 trillion. But who knows? Maybe or somewhere around 10 trillion. Sorry, but who knows? Maybe it'll stall out somewhere around 5. We'll just have to play things by ear and see how things go. But the key takeaway being that yes, there is enough time for altcoins to rally, even within this kind of like Q3 cycle top framework. And again, some people might be disheartened, but like if you just take a second and actually do the math here, the chances of others, let's say roughly tripling from this level, is pretty high. And again, that means that the average return for altcoins from this level would be somewhere around 3x. Most altcoins will underperform that. A few will outperform that. If you have a quality altcoin, then it'll probably be closer, let's say, I don't know, to 7 or 8 or 10x. If you have a low quality altcoin, then maybe it'll be a 2x or even nothing, like a 50% gain. So that's the main thing to keep in mind is you could almost make the argument that these kind of diminishing returns in others is really suppressed as a result of all these low quality altcoins that are kind of like flooding the market and holding down that average, if that makes any sense. Like think of all the meme coins, like the millions of meme coins that are out there. They're probably not going to go up more than, like 50% or 2x. And that kind of brings down the overall average for others as a whole, if that makes any sense. Notwithstanding the fact that others is technically, the top 300 by market cap after the top 10 or whatever. But anyways, last thing I want to mention in terms of time frame, because of course, maybe I'll do another video as to why I believe the cycle top will be in Q3 and not Q4. But I guess a spoiler for that one is a big part of that has to do with Bitcoin. Like Bitcoin is already here breaking out. And like the idea that Bitcoin is just going to keep going up only while, like altcoins catch up. Like basically the idea that Bitcoin is going to go up only between now and the middle of next year, I think is just dumb. And to have this like a thesis that is just, that is just going to continue repeating what it's been doing over the last, let's say, year or so, I don't think that's very safe, especially considering the changing dynamics around liquidity and stuff, which again, I'll have to get into a future video. But in my mind, the main limiting factor in terms of time has more to do with Bitcoin. And it looks like Bitcoin is on track for a top sometime in September. So logically, we would see altcoins top at the most like a month after that, right? So that would put the cycle top for altcoins at the latest sometime in mid-October. And again, I'm going to be watching all that super closely. I'll be keeping you guys up to speed. And if you did enjoy what you saw today, then be sure to smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, ping that notification bell, and I'll see you in the next one.